We're handing over more and more of our financial decisions to artificial intelligence. We trust it. But what if the very AI that's supposed to be helping you pick stocks has, well, a secret of its own? Today, we're going to investigate a really simple but totally crucial question.
Does your AI play favorites? It sounds a little strange, right? But a fascinating new study put these powerful tools to the test to see if they have hidden biases when it comes to the stock market.
So a lot of us trust these large language models, LLMs, to sift through super complex financial reports and give us unbiased insights. The whole idea is that they're purely objective, just cold, hard data. But what if the AI has already made up its mind about a company before it even looks at a single number?
And here's why this matters so much. This quote from the research paper gets right to the heart of it. If these AIs have biases, and we're all using them to make huge investment decisions, those secret little preferences could actually start to warp the entire market.
Okay, so how on earth do you detect a hidden bias in an AI? It's not like you can put it on a witness stand. Well, instead, these researchers designed this really clever test to see if just knowing a company's name could completely change the AI's financial analysis.
The method they used was basically a blind taste test for the AI. It's brilliant. First, they'd give it a piece of a financial report, no company name attached, and ask for a sentiment score. Then they'd give it the exact same text, but this time they'd say, oh, by the way, this is for company X. And that difference in the score, that's what they called company-specific bias. A positive score meant the AI basically gave the company a little boost just for being itself. A negative score? It means it penalized the company just based on its name.
So let's just recap the process to make it super clear. Get a baseline score, no name. Then get a second score with the name. That gap, that little difference between score number 1 and score number 2, that's the smoking gun. That's the hard evidence of the AI's hidden opinion.
So, what did they actually find? Well, after running this test thousands and thousands of times across the world's most advanced AI models, the evidence was, well, it was undeniable.
Every single model they tested showed bias. For GPT-4o, the AI's opinion changed in about 17% of cases based on nothing but the company's name. For GPT-3.5 Turbo, it was a full 20% of the time. That's 1 in every 5 cases. This was not a fluke. This was a systemic pattern.
So the conclusion is just unavoidable. These AIs are not the perfectly objective number crunchers we want them to be. They come to the table with preconceived notions, ideas they've learned from the mountains of data they were trained on.
All right, so we know the bias is real. The next question, of course, is why? I mean, what is it about certain companies that makes an AI form an opinion, a preference? So the researchers dug into that next.
And the patterns they found were just fascinating. It wasn't random at all. If we take GPT 3.5 as an example, it was consistently more negative towards smaller companies. It also seemed to have a soft spot for stocks with low recent returns, what investors call momentum, and it really liked value stocks, which are companies that seem kind of cheap compared to their assets.
And here's where it gets really, really interesting. Different AIs have different financial personalities. So for instance, while GPT 3.5 showed a positive bias for those value stocks, the newer, more advanced GPT-4o showed the exact opposite. It was biased against them. So they're looking at similar information and forming completely opposing opinions.
So we have these biased AIs, all with their own little personalities. You might be thinking, okay, that's interesting, but does it really matter? Well, this is where the research takes a turn from just being interesting to being a little alarming.
To really get a handle on the real-world impact, the researchers modeled a future where AI-driven trading is the name of the game. They basically ran a simulation to see what would happen to stock prices if these biased AIs were the ones calling the shots. And the results were a pretty big deal. For GPT 3.5, the stocks the AI had a positive bias for outperformed the ones it was biased against by 1.40% over just 60 days. Now, I know 1.4% doesn't sound like a ton, but in a multi-trillion-dollar market, that is a huge shift based on absolutely nothing but the AI's secret preference.
And this effect wasn't even consistent. Look at this. Claude 3 Haiku's bias created an even bigger performance gap, almost 1.9%. But then, get this, Claude 3.5 Sonnet's bias led to a negative spread. That means its favorite stocks actually did worse. It just shows how chaotic and unpredictable these AI-driven distortions could become.
So, the ultimate takeaway here is pretty stark. If these biases go unchecked, the AIs themselves could start picking winners and losers in the market, not based on a company's actual performance, but on their own hidden prejudices.
So what does this all mean for the future of investing? I mean, the goal isn't to just throw AI out the window. It's about being a whole lot smarter about how we use it.
Let's just boil it all down to 3 key things to remember. 1. This bias is a proven fact across all the big AI models. 2. It's not random noise. It's tied to real-world things like company size. And 3, and this is the big one, at scale, these biases could have serious consequences for the entire market.
As the researchers themselves put it, making sure these incredibly powerful tools are accurate and trustworthy is still a huge challenge. It kind of feels like we've built this incredibly powerful engine, but we're still figuring out how to steer the thing.
And that kind of leaves us with one final thought. As these tools get woven more and more into our financial lives, if your AI financial advisor has a hidden agenda and starts playing favorites, how would you even know?